Hello and welcome to a special Cottage meeting online for Profs 11 and 14. My name is Seth Cox. I've been following the issue of dividing Alpine School District for many years now, and it's an exciting opportunity that voters in some of these cities will have to create their own new districts. First of all, let's make sure we understand what the propositions are. Proposition 14 would create a new school district for Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs, Cedar Fort, and Fairfield. It would be a large district, not a small district. It would be the 10th largest in the state and the fastest growing. Prop 11 would create a new school district for Lehi, American Fork, Highland, Alpine, Cedar Hills, and that little part of Draper that comes into Utah County that's already part of Alpine School District. Something very important to note about these propositions is that if either one of them pass, Alpine School District will be dissolved in 2027 and we will have new districts. These are the potential new districts. On the map, the yellow would be the West District, and the names aren't finalized yet. There's a lot that has not been finalized. But that's what the new district boundaries would look like. The central district area would be there in the green on the map. As you look at the pie charts right up there, you'll notice that for current enrollment numbers, these three districts are very balanced. The central would have almost 35,000 students, while the east and the west districts would have about 25,000 students each. Eventually, the west district will become bigger than both of the other districts in about 10 years, as some of the predictions show. The first question, why split Alpine School District? Alpine School District is so large that its board members are managing 12 schools on average each. That includes, for some of them, multiple high schools. They are extremely busy, and the board member districts are larger than House member districts for the state legislature. For comparison, the average school district size just in Utah is 13,000 students, and in the United States, it's less than 4,000. And when we're talking about a small district, we're talking less than 4,000 students. Splitting Alpine School District into three, they would all be over 20,000 students each. These would not be small districts by any stretch of the imagination. Many people will say, well, being bigger is better because you have purchasing power, you have the ability to streamline certain things. And that's true, but there is a certain point where a district becomes so big that they experience what's called diseconomies of scale. There's too much middle management. The distance between principals and the superintendent becomes so great and so layered with management levels that things aren't run efficiently. People become a number instead of people. And overall, there's just more bureaucracy and red tape. In addition to that, what has really brought this question to the forefront right now is that the community needs are so different. Out in the West, you have overcrowded schools, 3,000 plus students in a high school, 1,000 or more students in each of the elementary schools, and there's trailers upon trailers. It is not sustainable. They can't build the schools fast enough because the district has to build with the whole district in mind. They can't just focus on the West. Likewise, the East Side school districts have also been forgotten somewhat because they have seismic issues and they're being closed because they're small, and the district doesn't feel it's fair that the schools out on the West Side are so big and the schools on the East Side are so small. Well, it's not fair, but that doesn't mean that we have to be taking away these neighborhood schools from the East. And then for the people in the Central, they're contributing the most in taxes, but getting the least benefit from those taxes. The final catalyst for getting this moving forward was when the bond failed in 2022. It was over $500 million. Voters saw that number and felt it was just too much to ask. Not only that, it really didn't cover all the needs that the district had. And regardless, taxes have been going up. The board just this year voted to increase taxes again to pay for schools and other things that are needed. The needs aren't going away, but because the district is so large, none of the needs are getting met. The West residents will benefit from being able to build the schools that they need. They will have all 7 board members for their district living in those communities that are experiencing that massive growth. They will be able to raise the taxes if they would like, build whatever they need to build. It's important to note that in 2026, a certain amount of bond payments for Alpine School District are going to drop off taxpayers. For the Central, they would no longer only have 2 members on the board representing their area. They would have all 7. They would be able to keep the programs that they want. They would be able to fix some of the schools in their areas that are dealing with seismic issues. The East Side also benefits from this, even though they don't get to vote on it. The East Side would be able to focus on fixing those schools that have seismic issues. They would be able to focus on not closing schools if that's what they want to do. If they want to close or consolidate schools, they have that choice, and they're not having that choice forced on them by anyone else in any of the other communities. The East Side also has a lot of properties that they could benefit from. And if we don't split at all, there's no guarantee that another bond will pass. In fact, the needs are just going to continue to increase, but the communities are going to be more and more opposed to raising taxes to pay for what they're not seeing the benefits of. So if more schools get closed in the East Side, more, especially minority communities, are going to be hurt, because those schools, if they drop below a certain percentage of minority, then they lose Title I funding from the federal government. Now, some people have wondered, well, is it feasible to create these 3 school districts? Aren't there some problems with that? Every study that has been done over the past several years has concluded that it is feasible to have districts of these sizes. About 70% of the funding for a school district comes from the state income tax on a per student basis. So the same students going to the same schools are going to generate the same revenue for that district. It's also important to note that the way that this split works, the 2 largest cities that have the largest tax bases, Lehi and Orem, which is about 20% of the tax base each, are going to be in their own district. They will be financial pillars for those districts. Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs, when you combine their tax bases, they also equal about 20% of the tax base of Alpine School District. These districts would be very well balanced, very feasible options moving forward. We are very concerned about teachers, and teachers are concerned about a change like this. What's important to note is that teachers will continue to get the pay and the seniority and the benefits that they have guaranteed for the first year after the split. After that, the benefit of splitting into 3 districts is, instead of having one employer for the whole area, creating basically a monopoly, you have 3 competitive districts that would be able to compete for teachers in pay and benefits. And if something isn't working well for a teacher in one district, they can go to a different district and potentially get a better deal for them. Students will still be able to attend whatever school they're going to. This is the most balanced option. The United States government is set up with 3 branches of government: the executive, legislative, and judicial. The 3 of them balance each other out so that not one of them gets too powerful. If we only split into a 2-way district, unfortunately, that creates an imbalance of power. One side of the district would be getting a lot more assets and resources after the split than the other. Another question that sometimes comes up is, well, maybe a split should be done at some point, but not now, not in this way. The problem is that these arguments have been used for years. It has been a long process to get this on the ballot so the voters can make the decision. The people who are saying not now, if you ask them, they won't be able to say when. And the board members are not agreeing with each other. If we don't split now, it will be more painful down the road. It will be a catastrophe for our schools and for our district. I want to thank you for listening. If you have more questions on these topics, feel free to visit my website, smallerschools.org, or you can go and look for the websites of each of these propositions. There's plenty of good information out there. Please educate yourself on the issues. Don't buy into anything without doing your own research and education. Thanks for listening.